Check out FlipsideGaming.com for all your gaming needs. Use the promo code HEROES to save 10% on all orders over $10. Hey there, this is John from Heroes and Legends, and welcome to another edition of the Magic the Gathering Market Watch. Now, official Kamigawa Neon Dynasty Preview season has begun, and of course some of those reveals are moving card prices. You're going to see that in today's video. But there's other things going on in the secondary market too. We had a banned and restricted list update this week, which is moving some prices as well, and a whole lot of other things to talk about. Quickly before we get into it though, just a fast reminder, if you go to FlipsideGaming.com, you can use the Heroes promo code to save 10% on orders over $10. Currently, you can pre-order Kamigawa Neon Dynasty products there. They do have the Commander decks as well. They are on a separate page, so I'll leave 2 links below so you can find what you're looking for easily. But even aside from Kamigawa Neon Dynasty, they have a whole lot of other things on their website. Remember, if your order is over $100 or it consists only of singles, shipping will be free in the United States. Also, whenever you use that promo code, it does support the channel, which is always appreciated, so thank you. And without any further ado, let's get into it. No standard spotlight this week, not a lot happening in that format, which is not too surprising. We just started the preview season for Kamigawa, and also we had a few bannings occur in standard this week as well. So I think players are going to wait and see what the meta is going to look like before they start rushing out to buy cards. With that being said, though, we do have a Pioneer Legal Spotlight, a couple cards to talk about. First is Elvish Reclaimer. This goes up 274 this week to 1014, and there was a lot of discussion around this card recently among pros about whether it should be run in Modern Jund. I do see a lot of players putting it in that deck now. In Legacy, it sees a ton of play. It's in Elves, Selesnya, as well as Sultai Depths. It's in Lands, Mono Green Cloudpost, Abzan Loam. None of those decks contained Ragavan Nimble Pilfer, which was banned in Legacy this week, so any of those decks have a chance of getting more play in the future. Plus, it looks like there are going to be some land-centric cards in Kamigawa Neon Dynasty, as well as some lands that have the channel ability. These channel lands are a great way to get lands in the graveyard, which is exactly what Elvish Reclaimer wants. Here's some examples of what I'm talking about. Kodama of the West Tree is an example of one of the new cards that does interact with lands. Also notice that this interacts with modified creatures as well. Then we have a couple examples of those channel lands, Boseiju Who Endures, and so Kenzan Crucible of Defiance. And our last card in this section is Days Undoing. This goes up 288 this week to 875. This is the copy from Magic Origins. It was added to the list recently with Innistrad Crimson Vow. In Pioneer, this does show up in some Dimir control builds, but like I mentioned a moment ago, Ragavan was banned in Legacy this week. That opens the door for some different decks to perhaps become better in the meta. One of those decks is the Jeskai Days Undoing control deck, which was featured on ChannelFireball.com this week. I'm sure that brought some more attention to it and to this card. You also see this in banned control builds too in Legacy. Additionally, this gets a little commander play. Sometimes it's in Nakuzar the Mindraiser and some other builds. And that takes us to the Modern Legal Spotlight. This is where we look at modern legal cards that are moving the most this week. We have some cards going down in value and then some cards going up. First, we have Kalastria Highborn. This is the copy from the list. It was only there during Zendikar Rising. It goes down 264 this week to 1049. You might remember it was going up in value last week, retracting this week. And not too long ago, Vampires got a pretty big push in Commander thanks to Innistrad Crimson Vow and the Vampiric Bloodline Commander deck. This does see some Commander play. Occasionally, it's in the popular Edgar Markov builds. Cryptic Command, again, this is the one from the list, only there during Zendikar Rising. It goes down 274 to 2163. This is normalizing down, getting closer to the price of some of the other copies. Also, in general, this is seeing less play than it used to in Modern. You'll still see it in Temur Control there, for example. It is found in a number of Commander builds, though, including Orvar the Allform. Avacyn, Angel of Hope, this is the copy from Iconic Masters. It goes down 315 this week to 4349. This is stabilizing back down after some recent increases. It is a solid commander and in the 99 of a lot of different builds there, including the popular Kaalia of the Vast decks. Cavern of Souls, the copy from Ultimate Masters, goes down 333 this week to 8513. So this was added to the list with Keltime, and it is still there through Crimson Vow. Now, granted, when you put a card on the list, it doesn't push a ton of copies into the marketplace right away, but if that card stays there set after set after set after set, eventually the copies do begin to accumulate. I do think this would be a much more expensive card today if that list copy didn't exist. Why do I say that? Well, because it sees a ton of play. First off, in Modern, it's in Amulet Titan, Elementals, and much more there. In Legacy, it's in Doomsday, Mono Green Cloudpost. Again, those are two decks that might get boosted from that Ragavan banning. It's in other decks there too. Vintage, you'll see it in humans. Plus, it is a very, very popular commander card. It's in many different decks, including Alper Markov again. On top of that, we know Kamigawa Neon Dynasty is bringing support to a number of tribes. Ninjas, samurai, warriors, dragons, spirits, goblins, ogres, snakes, dogs. We'll just have to see how much support each of these tribes get in the end. But no doubt, more players will be interested in grabbing a copy of this for Commander, if nothing else. Last card going down in value today is Higuri the Still Wind. This is the copy from Plane Chase Anthology. It's down $3.62 to $24. Currently, this does see Commander play in Yuriko the Tiger's Shadow builds and a few others. This, along with some other ninjas, spiked when Wizards of the Coast announced that ninjas would play a significant role in Kamigawa Neon Dynasty. Since then, the hype has died down a little bit, and you've seen some of these ninja cards, including this one, go down in value some. However, preview season might reignite some of that interest in the coming days. Here are some examples of ninja support cards that we have seen previewed so far. We have Thousand Face Shadow, Biting Palm Ninja, Tetsunari Toad Rider, Kaito Shizuki, and Satoru Umezawa. First card going up in value in this section is Urza Saga. This goes up $2.80 this week to $44.98. Now, some of the more expensive modern cards cooled off last week when players were waiting for that banned and restricted list announcement. However, nothing was changed in modern, so this week some of these more expensive cards are moving up again. In fact, this card as well as the next three are all pretty highly played modern cards. This one you're going to find in Hammer Time, Jund, Amulet Titan, Affinity, and much more there. It also sees Legacy play. It's in Painter and lands there. Again, two decks that could see more play now that Ragavan is banned. You'll find it in other places in that format as well. Vintage, it's in Grixis Tinker, Paradoxical Outcome, Aggro Shops, and more there too. It is a popular commander card as well. You'll find this in Urza Lord High Artificer and many other builds. Plus, on top of that, there was a Prosper Tomebound deck that used this on an Extra Turns episode of the Command Zone podcast this week. That might have brought a little more attention to it. Beyond all that, as if this card needed any more help, it does appear from what we're seeing that enchantments are going to play a role in Kamigawa Neon Dynasty. We'll have to see how big of a role and if this does fit in, but there's a chance that this enchantment land could get better in the future. And here's another highly played modern card that is moving again after it was a little bit slow last week. This is Ren and 6, the copy from Modern Horizons. It goes up $3 to $102.64. Now, this was also part of the list in Zendikar Rising and Kaldheim, that's worth noting. And a number of months ago, Wizards announced Double Masters 2022 would be coming out this year. They showed the art for this card, so there's another reprint incoming. However, modern players that need to build a deck can't always wait for those reprints to come out. This is in Modern 4-color Blink, Jund, 4-color Omnith, and much more. It is banned in Legacy, but you do find it in Vintage Teamer Control and 4-color Tempo. This too gets some commander play in Lord Windgrace, Omnith Locus of Creation, and more. Plus, this also plays well with those Kamigawa Channel lands we talked about earlier. Third verse, same as the first, Yawgmoth Thran Physician, another card that you see in Modern that gets a good amount of play, that does have sort of a hefty price tag. Now, unlike the last two cards, this isn't in a ton of different decks, but this isn't a pretty popular one, Yawgmoth Sacrifice. It is a solid commander card and in the 99 of many builds there, including a popular newer one, Toxrill the Corrosive. The Modern Horizons copy is up $272 this week to $36.43. The Time Spiral Remastered copy is up $330 to $38.31. Fourth verse, same as the first, Oboro Palace in the Clouds is up $506 this week to $84.08. I do think for a while there was some fear that this might see a reprint in some kind of subset in Kamigawa Neon Dynasty. Now that we've learned more about this set, it doesn't seem like there's a subset like that coming out, at least they haven't told us anything yet. I don't think this would show up in the standard set. Maybe it works its way into the list, but again, if it's just on the list for one set, that doesn't mean a whole lot when it comes to pricing. So you take that into account alongside the fact that we got past the banned and restricted list update last week. I do think some players are a little more comfortable picking this up again. It is in the Modern Mill deck, which is pretty popular, also the Merfolk deck, which is less popular. It is also found in some commander builds like AC Tyrant of Gyre Strait, for example. Kusari Gama is the last card in this section today, and unlike the first four cards, this isn't a big modern card, but it is going up $5.92 to $11.99. Why is that? Well, currently this does see some commander play in a few different decks, including Zurgo Helm Smasher. It is particularly good if you equip it on an indestructible creature, and it does look like this will get better with Kamigawa Neon Dynasty. We already saw one card earlier that referred to the Modify mechanic, that was Kodama of the West Tree, and I'm sure we're going to be seeing a number of modified cards over the course of this week. Remember, equipment does make a creature modified. Let me put up on the screen now a couple preview cards that we've seen that could push this. The first one is Kyodai, Soul of Kamigawa, since it can give something indestructible. The other card is the front-facing commander for the Upgrades Unleashed commander deck. It is Cesareo, the Shattered Blade, and if Kusarigama is not reprinted in that deck, it could be a good upgrade. That takes us to the Vintage Spotlight, and this is where we talk about cards that see play in Legacy, Vintage, 93, 94, or cards that are just popular among collectors. Remember, when it comes to these older, more expensive Vintage cards, a lot of times you don't see a lot of sales in any given week. Because of that, we do have to rely a little more on asking price in this section compared to other sections in the video, so just keep that in mind. The prices you see on the screen are going to be very reminiscent of what you might see on a price tracking website. And also remember, on those websites, the value you see is typically somewhere between high-grade raw and high-grade graded copies of the card. So just remember that as we go through today. Although, if the value is way off and it's not lining up with what I'm seeing when it comes to true sales, I will point that out. First, we have Underground Sea from Revised. It is going up $2.43 this week to $949.85. This is not a big percentage increase, but I did include it anyway because I wanted to show you that this week, for the most part, the revised dual lands are pretty quiet. There's still a couple more in this section, though. Intuition from Tempest goes up $4.34 this week to $186.50. This is in Legacy Omnitel, which could improve now that Ragavan has been banned. This gets a little commander play at times in Urza Lord High Artificer and some other builds. Tellurian Academy, this goes up $5.20 this week to $144.99. This is banned in Commander, so you can't blame that format for this increase. But in Vintage, you'll see this in Paradoxical Outcome, Grixis Tinker, Aggro Shops, and more. Here's that second revised dual land, Tropical Island. It's up $5.32 this week to $699.99. Palladium Wars, the copy from Legends, goes up $10.02 this week to $86.99. Colossus of Sardia, this is the one from Antiquities, up $10.09 to $61.49. Recall from Legends, up $13.48 to $135. Mana Crypt, now this is the original book promo giveaway. It goes up $14.99 to $389.99. You're going to see this one in Vintage Tinker, Paradoxical Outcome, Aggro Shops, and more too. Additionally, though, it is a very highly played commander card in a lot of different decks. And some players have been picking this up to upgrade the Secret Lair commander deck, Heads I Win, Tails You Lose. That is a coin flip deck, with the commanders being Okaun Eye of Chaos and Zender Split Eye of Wisdom. Beyond that, it was also in two decks that were featured in that Extra Turns episode of the Command Zone podcast I mentioned earlier. Icy Manipulator, the one from Unlimited, is up $15.01 this week to $150. North Star goes up $17.99 to $98.99. Force of Nature from Unlimited goes up $18.91 to $68.90. City of Traders, this is up $19.86 this week to $319.95. This is in a bunch of Legacy decks, including Painter and Azorius Bomberman. Again, a couple of decks that might get better now that Ragavan has been banned. This also appears in a number of Commander builds too. Sometimes it's in Carrick, Son of Yawgmoth, and many more. Ring of Maruf is back again. It goes up $19.96 to $224.99. Berserk from Unlimited up $20.43 to $181.69. Sorceress Queen, the copy from Arabian Nights, that original one, is up $26.36 to $194.35. Bayou, the last revised dual land today, is going up $31.48 to $549.98. A lot of Arabian Nights cards today. Repentant Blacksmith, this is the copy from that set. It goes up $45 to $105. The Arabian Nights Mountain is up $48.56 to $395.95 this week. Entomb, this Odyssey copy is going up $54.64 to $99.99 this week. Okay, so first off, this particular copy completely sold out online. The only copies left have extremely high asking prices attached to them. That's why you're seeing this kind of inflation. Maybe this copy was targeted for a buyout, maybe it did dry up naturally, but having said that, there is true interest around this card. Other copies of the card have been creeping up recently. So what's the reason? This is in the Legacy Reanimator deck, which was good to begin with, but now many are speculating that it could get even better now that Ragavan has been banned in the format. On top of that, it does see a lot of commander play, and it is getting increased play now in a newer build, Bruno Stromkirk / Crothus Lord of the Deep. Pirate Ship from Unlimited. Okay, in theory, going up $73.84 to $92.47. However, this price looks pretty inflated. I have seen some high-grade raw copies sell for about $30. I have not, however, seen any high-grade graded copies sell recently, though. Ali from Cairo is up $82.82 to $789.99 this week. In reality, though, I have seen high-grade raw copies sell for a little more than this price at times. City of Brass from Arabian Nights. It goes up $125.85 to $773.50 this week. This price is between high-grade raw and high-grade graded copies. It is a little closer, though, to what I would expect to pay for a high-grade raw copy. One more dual land, but this one is from the Unlimited set. This is Badlands. It goes up 304.70 to 974.50. And yeah, that price is pretty well in the middle between high-grade raw and high-grade graded copies. Last card in this section is Mishra's Factory. Now, this is the Antiquities Fall variant. It goes up in theory $481.29 to $599.99. In reality, this price does look inflated. I have seen high-grade raw copies sell for about $140, but again, I haven't seen any high-grade graded copies sell for a while. And that takes us to the Commander Spotlight. All the cards in this section are moving up, at least in part because of Commander, but there could be other reasons as well, and I'll let you know as we go through. First, we have Frankenstein's Monster back again. This goes up $204 to $84.99. Now, this does see a tad bit of Commander play, but really what's happening here is the card is stabilizing after a recent targeted buyout. Some reserve list cards from the dark have remained hot this week. You're going to see a few more in this section today. But like we talked in last week's videos, we have been seeing some activity around this set for a little while, and a number of content creators noticed that, discussed it in videos and articles, and that did bring some additional attention to the cards as well. Tarmogoyf, the original one from Future Sight, goes up $218 this week to $57.98. This was part of the list not too long ago, but only for one set, Modern Horizons 2. It does get a little Commander play, sometimes in Grist the Hunger Tide, for example, but this is better known for being a good Modern card in Jund and a few other decks there. In Legacy, you'll see this in Temur Delver, but without Ragavan, that deck might not see as much play as it did. In Vintage, it's in Sultai Midrange and Temur Control. Your own? Personal? Tutor is back. It's going up $229 to $87.28. This is a tutor, so you know it's going to show up in some Commander decks. I have seen this occasionally in Yuriko the Tiger Shadow builds, and of course those builds have been hot due to the incoming ninja support from Kamigawa Neon Dynasty. Legacy, you see this in Doomsday, another deck that could get better without Ragavan around. Bloodstained Mire, the original one from Onslaught, goes up $229 to $89.15. This is rebounding a little after some recent losses. It is a fetch land, so you know it's going to see a ton of play in a lot of different decks. It's in a variety of formats like Modern, Legacy, and Commander. It happens to show up in a couple hot Commander decks currently, Alper Markov and Yuriko the Tiger Shadow. Kozilek Butcher of Truth, the original one from Rise of the Eldrazi, goes up $249 to $74.09. Another card that was part of the list not too long ago. It was in Strixhaven and Modern Horizons 2. In Commander, sometimes you will see this as a Commander, but it is in the 99 of many builds, including Kozilek the Great Distortion. It also appears sometimes in a newer deck, Jacob Hawken Inspector / Hawken's Insight. In Modern, this is in Mono Green Tron, and in Legacy, you'll see this in Mono Green Cloudpost. Mystical Tutor. Now, this is the copy from the list that was only there during Kel time. Also, it's getting another printing now in the Far Out Man Secret Lair. This copy, though, goes up $256 this week to $27.95. This is a highly played Commander card in many different decks. One of the more popular ones, though, is Yuriko the Tiger Shadow. In Vintage, you'll see this in Grixis Tinker, Doomsday, and more. Painter Servant from Shadowmoor. This goes up $261 to $68.85. This does appear in some Commander builds, usually with Grindstone, but the main reason it's moving like this now ties into that Ragavan ban in Legacy. The Painter deck might be getting better there. Harsh Justice is up $272 to $15.49. Now, this does get a tad bit of Commander play, but it is a very old card that is yet to be reprinted. These are hard to find online right now in good condition. Martyr's Cry. Now, this doesn't really see much play anywhere, but like I said, there's been a lot of interest in reserve list cards from the dark recently. This goes up $2.99 this week to $24. Phyrexian Altar from Ultimate Masters goes up $332 to $98.78. Big Commander card and combo enabler. It's in a variety of decks, including Alper Markov and Toxrill the Corrosive. Goblin Wizard. Now, this does see a tad bit of Commander play in Goblin builds here or there. It goes up $402 this week to $133.99. But again, this is a reserve list card from the dark. I do think that's the main reason it is moving the way it is. But you do have to consider that Goblins are making a comeback now in Kamigawa. Maybe they're going to be in Streets of New Capenna because it does feel like Goblins could fit into that lore. We know the next two standard sets are going to take place on Dominaria. Goblins live there. Plus, there's a number of supplemental products coming out this year. Some could contain goblins. I do think this might be the year of the goblin. And when people think reserve list goblins, this is the first card that comes to mind. Sylvan Tutor from Portal. This goes up $434 this week to $84.02. Another tutor that gets some Commander play. You do see this in Tulane Teller of Tales sometimes and other builds. Another reserve list card from the dark. This time it is Exorcist. It goes up 450 this week to 4180. And this does see just a tad bit of commander play, but it looks like it was the target of a recent buyout. Palinkron, this goes up 458 to 8429. Another good commander card and combo enabler in a number of different decks, including Orvar the Allform. Norwood Priestess. Sure, this gets a little commander play, but the real appeal here is that it is an older card that's yet to be reprinted. It goes up 551 this week to 129.11. Obscuring Haze is up 905 to 1108. This actually peaked at a higher price a few days ago. It has been trending down, but still, week to week, this is up quite a bit. This is in a number of commander builds, including Finn the Fangbearer. Not a card that is amazing in a vacuum, but it is one of the best fogs in the commander format. The rest of the cards in this cycle have been more expensive for a while. They are a little more versatile, but this one is catching up in price this week, as you can see. Now, I do think the catalyst for this was a recent video put out by Nitpicking Nerds. They were discussing good value commander pickups, and this was one of them. I do think that video brought some attention to the card. It was also mentioned in a recent EDH REC commander video too. Wheel of Fortune, that revised copy is up 936 this week to 359.35. Yet another good commander card and combo enabler that is found in a number of builds. I do see this sometimes in Alper Markov too. Gilded Drake, this is up 1325 to 339.50 this week. It is expensive, but it is a good commander card in a number of different decks if you're lucky enough to have one. The Premium Spotlight is back for the fans out there, and it's been a number of weeks. I just haven't found a lot of premium cards I wanted to talk about. This week, though, I did find 3. So just a quick note about this section. It is very similar to the vintage section. Because these cards don't sell in large quantities, the prices do have to lean a little harder on asking price. So just keep that in mind. But in this section, I will show you the price and then tell you what I'm seeing when it comes to true sales. Beyond the 3 cards we're going to talk about today, though, I would say keep a close eye on some foil vehicles. A few of those have begun to move. They weren't moving enough for me to put in this section yet, but maybe next week you might see some. Wheel of Fortune is the first card in this section, and it is the Judge foil. It goes up $30.93 to $1,666.67. So is that for real? Well, I have seen high-grade raw copies sell for about $1,500. I have not seen a high-grade graded copy sell for a while, but I would imagine one could sell for more than this when it happens. You probably guessed this one was here. Kusarigama, this is the foil from Champions of Kamigawa. It goes up $37.40 to $59.99. Well, maybe kind of. In reality, I've seen high-grade raw copies sell for about $20. Although there was a recent 9.5 graded copy sell for $80. I would have to think that's an anomaly, though, simply because I don't think a lot of people had this card graded previously. And the last card today is the Intuition Judge foil. It goes up $42.93 to $942.92. So is that price for real? Well, it looks like high-grade raw copies are going for about $600. Again, though, I have not seen a high-grade graded copy sell for a while. Seems like one could go for around this price at some point, though. Alright, that's going to do it for this episode of The Market Watch. Now, I'm looking forward to the rest of the Kamigawa previews in the coming weeks, and I do know they're going to have an impact on card prices. I would expect to see a lot of that in next week's video, so do join us. Until next time, stay safe out there. Hey, thanks for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe, and have a great day. Hey, thanks for watching. This video is made possible through the generous support of viewers like you on Patreon. Check out the description below for links to our Patreon page, as well as our Amazon affiliate store, where a small percentage of all sales will also help support the channel. Finally, if you haven't had a chance yet to subscribe, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of the new videos on Heroes and Legends. Talk to you again soon, and have a great day.